This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted joined by promoter Eddie Hearn here at his open workout in London. Eddie, how are you doing? Looking very tanned.
Oh, I am. I have had a few days away. This is not a little Essex sunbed. This is the real McCoy. Yeah, I had a little rest, ready to go. Of course, Saturday, Canelo next week, Kid Galahad, then the Demetrius Andrade 4 World Championship fights, then Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos. Then fingers crossed Devin Haney, and then we're going to finish with 2 really big UK shows, December 11 and December 18th. So getting ready for a big run, recharge, ready to go, mate.
We'll come on to all of that shortly, but let's just start off with this weekend. Obviously, Chantel Cameron will now headline this card. Talk about what you're expecting to see from her in her unified world title bout.
Well, I think she's incredibly exciting. You never see a bad Chantel Cameron fight, but she has a really, really tough fight against Cameron-McGee. I mean, there is the argument that the opposition hasn't been that tough for Chantel Cameron over the years. She's beaten everyone that's been put in front of her, but here she has a genuine pound-for-pound champion who's coming to win. IBF World Champion Cameron-McGee, WBC Champion, Chantel Cameron, the inaugural Ring Magazine Championship on the line as well, and of course the first semi-final of our Road to Undisputed tournament. So I think you're going to see a great fight here. Love Chantel Cameron. I think she's so exciting to watch. Look, when the Dillian Whyte fight fell through, it doesn't benefit anyone. It's a real kick in the nuts. You do one or two things. You say, right, okay, just bin it off, bin the show off, or you say no. You know, we've sold a lot of tickets. We've got World Championship fights. We've got good fights on the card, and we've also got 9 fighters of our own that have trained for 8 or 10 weeks for this opportunity. So again, financially, it's not great for us, and I know the show's not as strong as you'd like it to be, losing the main event, but this is where we are, and we crack on, and we give people the opportunities, and I believe we're going to have a good show on Saturday.
We'll come on to kind of the difficulties of continuing to put this show on shortly, but just to stick with the card, one fight I'm really looking forward to is the Castaneda one, because obviously I saw him against Ofer Jones. Brilliant fight there with Kamaru on the Andrade undercard. Brilliant fight there. So what should everybody expect from Castaneda this time around?
This is a really, really tough fight. It's a 50-50 fight. I mean, Castaneda against Ofer Jones was an amazing fight. Bad news for us because Ofer Jones, our guy, got beat by Castaneda. With this fight with Kamaru, this is typical Dillian Whyte matchmaking for his guys, right? If you're not good enough, like if you don't beat Castaneda, I don't think you can go on and win, maybe not British, but European and you know, big international fights. If he beats Castaneda, it will be, I know some people play these interviews back if they're not wars, but this is going to be a war. And I will put myself on the line here and say you can play this back if Castaneda against Kamaru is not a war on Saturday night. I think it can only be all-out war. It's a massive fight for Yusuf Kamaru if he can come through, but he's got his hands full because Castaneda, great engine, technically good as well, and tough as old boots.
Craig Richards and Marek Mateo.
Actually a good fight as well. Yeah. I mean, Craig's coming back from a good fight against Bivol. I think he could have believed in himself a little bit more. I think he could have possibly won that fight. And you get to a stage now with Craig where he's ready for all those guys domestically. He's ready for another world title shot. But he's actually got quite a tough fight against Matchroom, who's a pretty decent fighter from Poland. I think it's going to be a good fight. Johnny Fisher, who has sold 1,400 tickets out of his hand. It's another reason why I carried the show on, because I would have got lynched in Essex if I would have pulled Johnny Fisher off the card. Good fight against Torero. Obviously Babic against Molina. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that, look, Molina is unquestionably the most accomplished fighter that Babic has fought. It's just, he always starts pretty well. He hasn't had a 10-week training camp for this fight. He's been training for a few weeks. He's going to have a chance early on, but it's what happens after 4 or 5 rounds. This is what always happens with Alen Babic. But I think it's a really good fight. Also, before the bell, we've got the return of Ellie Scottney under Shane McGuigan. We've also got Thomas Carty, the heavyweight, in action. We've got Jordan Thompson, who I think is one of the top cruiserweight prospects in the country. We've got John Hedges as well. So good card, and gutted we lost the main event, but I think we're going to get a great night of boxing.
before we do move forwards. Babic and Fischer, both of them said openly they'd have faced Otto Wallin if a deal could have been agreed. Can you talk to me about that? If anything, offers-wise?
I made the offer to Dimitri Salita.
Both of them?
No. I'm not putting Johnny Fisher in with Otto Wallin. How you doing, mate? You alright? How are you, mate? Good to see you. Hey, boys. I'm not, it was Johnny Fisher at that point posts that on social media because he's so desperate to fight. For the last 5 or 6 weeks, he's gone out and basically sold tickets to virtually every remote fight fan from the Essex area. Talk of the devil. Right, mate? Good, you? You alright? Hey, mate, you alright? So he's like, I'll fight Otto Wallin. He ain't fighting Otto Wallin. Alan Babic, more than up for fighting Otto Wallin. I spoke to Dimitri Salita. Salita actually come on to me and said, what about Otto Wallin against Michael Hunter? I was like, a bit random on a London show, and how's that going to work? I said, but what we will do is we'll do Alan Babic against Otto Wallin. And he said, why would we want to fight a guy that was 8-0? I said, well, you want to fight, don't you? I mean, you'd be a massive favourite in that fight, but they didn't want to do it. I understand, and we moved forward with Molina.
I want to touch on Dimitri Salita and Otto Wallin. Dimitri in particular, they did a press conference, a virtual press conference last week, and they was insisting they wanted to see proof of Dillian's injury, why the fight couldn't go ahead. Obviously, a lot of people suggesting Dillian pulled out, knowing that the Tyson Fury fight could be mandated anytime soon. What was your thoughts on their comments?
Yeah, I think they're entitled to, and we've been in that conversation with them ever since. In fact, we spoke to their lawyers this morning about it. We have a full doctor's report as well on Dillian Whyte's injury. I spoke to Dimitri Salita yesterday. Me and Dimitri go back a long way, and I said to him yesterday, mate, you know that I know we're frustrated. I said, I know you're frustrated. We're frustrated. It's cost me an arm and a leg. It's cost DAZN a great main event. It's cost Dillian Whyte 4 or 5 months of training. I said, you've got to understand, Dillian Whyte hasn't boxed since March. He's not going to fight Tyson Fury till February or March next year. He's going to be out for a year. He's trained for 5 months. If we were going to pull out of this fight with some kind of pretend injury, we would have done it when we found out that he was going to fight Tyson Fury, which was about 4 weeks ago. I said, he wants to fight. He wanted to fight. He's been sparring even, and it's come out now because I've told this injury happened probably 2 weeks before, and he decided to carry on. He kept his sparring partners there. He carried on until he couldn't carry on anymore. So, and he's calmed down. He said, look, we're just frustrated. We want to fight. I said, look, I'm going to help you try and make the fight. I said, who knows? Maybe it gets rescheduled. I said, but I have to be honest, Dimitri. If he's faced with the option to fight Tyson Fury or Otto Wallin next, he's going to fight Tyson Fury. Yes, I know that. So we've got a press conference tomorrow with Dillian. You guys are welcome to ask him any questions. We're not hiding anywhere. There's nothing to hide from. And no one was more disappointed, well, obviously Dillian, than me last week because you've seen it. It's like you just get loads of shit. Oh, shit show. Oh, yes, and unfortunately, the show is not as good as it was going to be because we've lost a massive main event. But we would have much rather done the fight. But when a doctor tells you, and as the report shows, you cannot fight, ultimately, you cannot fight. And, we've got to make sure that Dillian Whyte is taken care of medically, and he couldn't continue in training camp.
It was an interesting point you made about inactivity, Eddie, because I know you've said that for Tyson Fury, he has been inactive and he's spoken openly about how frustrating that is for him. So for Dillian, if it's a year on from when he last fought Povetkin and going into that...
Yeah, it's not ideal at all, but that's what I'm saying. He wants to fight. Dillian boxed Alexander Povetkin in March of this year. He's probably not going to fight Tyson Fury till March of next year. That's why there was never any desire from Dillian Whyte not to fight in October. He was desperate to do so, but unfortunately, medically, couldn't continue.
We're back, picking us back up with Eddie Hearn. Just got whizzed away there to go and take part in the Matchroom live stream. Eddie, I was just going to go on to kind of Dillian Whyte's pulling out with his fight with Otto Wallin, and fans were annoyed by it. So we spoke quite, not necessarily in depth, but we spoke about the pay-per-view situation with DAZN and what have you. 5 of Dillian's last 6 fights have been pay-per-view when he was with Sky. This one, by all accounts, obviously wouldn't have been, but people would have looked at it as the first one away from that pay-per-view stream, going on to DAZN, big name, moving forwards. There's that frustration about obviously paying $1.99 previously, moving up to $7.99, but people don't feel like they've got their value for money, knowing that the show's still going ahead without that star name. That's what I've seen from social media. What's your take?
99% of buyers, effectively, for a fight like that of that magnitude, happen either, well, not even on fight week, on the day of purchase. So that's not the case. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, again, you know, fans are disappointed that he's pulled out. We're very disappointed that he wasn't fit to fight. He's very disappointed he wasn't fit to fight. And I don't know what else to say. You know, we had an opportunity to walk away from a show or continue with still a good card, not the card we hoped for, without a main event. But all I can say on that is that we will be adding an additional card now, which we'll announce in the next few days, to make sure that you get extra value to replace the Dillian Whyte card, and that'll be in the UK as well, on top of, you know, the Andrade card, the Teofimo Lopez, Kambosos card, looks like Haney against Jojo Diaz as well, and etc. So it's not just a case of, oh, we didn't get the Dillian Whyte card, we'll just carry on with Cameron and McGee. We're already planning to put an extra show in place to make sure that that value is there.
That extra show, I did hear you doing your interview earlier. You mentioned December the 11th in Liverpool as one of the potential destinations. So can you just tell me, myself, what could be lined up there?
Yeah, Liverpool's not confirmed, but December 11th we will be putting a huge UK show on and finishing with two big shows from the 11th and the 18th. Conor Benn and Katie Taylor will be a double header on December the 11th. Other World Championship fights on that card as well, big fights on the card. And then again, December the 18th, of course, Chisora Parker, Boatsi, World Championship fights on that card as well. Hoping to announce both. It's always difficult putting a time frame on it, but hopefully by the end of this weekend. The Chisora Parker press conference is on Monday in Manchester with the full lineup announced. Tickets will go on sale for that next week, and December 11th will be announced and on sale next week as well. So to answer your original question, it's not just, oh, sorry guys, we didn't get that fight. It's how do we give even more value to subscribers, and we will be doing that with an additional UK show that will be a very big UK show as well.
Opponent-wise for Conor Benn, we've spoken, you know, Adrian Broner, Victor Ortiz, Robert Guerrero. Is he likely Robert Guerrero or Victor Ortiz?
No, we spoke to Victor Ortiz and Guerrero. Guerrero didn't want the fight. Victor Ortiz wants to move to 154. That kind of level of those guys, though, is where we want to be. You know, I just did a piece with Coogan and talked about the David Avanesian offer. I said, to be honest with you, I feel like he needs one more fight before David Avanesian. There's no shame in it. David Avanesian is an elite welterweight, and Conor Benn will fight him tomorrow. But for me, I would prefer that he has one more fight first. So around the level of those guys that you're talking about, he needs to be in a big fight on December the 11th. Like I said, Katie Taylor, other World Championship action as well, and we'll announce that in the next few days.
Eddie, I'm sure you saw yesterday Anthony Joshua did an interview with Coogan. I just want to get that, well, we never get it, mate, but it's one of those. Just want to get your take on his approach in that interview, a very different mindset to what we've seen, a very different kind of outlook on his boxing career that we saw in that interview in comparison to previous.
Yeah, I think I'd say angry is the right word, but I just feel like he's pumped up. You know, he lost. He's desperate for redemption. He's desperate to win that fight. And I think he's prepared to do anything he has to do it. I do agree with a lot of people, you know, it's not just a case of just stick it on Usyk. You know, Usyk's a pound for pound great fighter. And the trip to America, obviously a lot of speculation about, you know, training camp. There's nothing certain on that. This is a situation where he's learning, he's listening, he's watching, he's looking at different environments, he's looking at different gyms. He just has to get this right. So rather than burying his head in the sand and rather than just going on holiday, he's working. He's working to improve, he's working to learn, he's working to get his preparation right for a fight he must win. And I believe he's going to win that rematch, and I'm looking forward to getting it made.
Just on the trainer's perspective, he said that he was going out there, he just wanted to kind of learn, he hadn't left Rob, he hadn't left Angel or anything like that. But he's trying to impress you, Eddie. But he was going away and he's working, and he said he wanted to kind of see in his camp how he can make everybody work together now. If he was to go away to work with somebody and try to bring them in some capacity, does that not add more confusion to his camp?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I think it's difficult. AJ, you know, he's a very loyal guy. He likes to make everyone feel comfortable. But he has to be selfish at the same time and decide what works best for him. We know that he has, of course, Rob McCracken, who is more than a trainer to AJ as well. He's a friend. He's been an advisor. He's been a mentor. He's been everything, and he also has a couple of other trainers in there as well. So it's not. I don't think there's any definitive model yet that he looks at and says, right, I've got to just not have them and just this one guy, or I've got to have one there and one there. It's what makes him comfortable. But at the moment, in my opinion, that didn't work in the last fight. And he has to take some responsibility as well. You can't just say, oh, well, the trainers all got it wrong. He got it wrong as well, and he's in there in the ring. But I don't feel like his preparation and tactics were right last time. So therefore, he has to look at what is right. I was with him in America, in some of those meetings with the trainers, and it wasn't an interview process. It wasn't like, okay, so do you want to be my trainer? It was a chat. It was talk about that last fight. It was talk about what he did wrong. It was learning about his experience. He went out, I think he enjoyed being in America. It's not like him walking down the street in London. People know him, but nowhere near to the level of they do here. And I think he enjoyed it. I think sometimes you have to look to freshen things up. And I wouldn't be surprised to see his training camp take place in America for the next fight. But wherever it is, it will be right. And that's the most important thing, because he can't afford to lose this fight. He has to win it. And I'm loving everything that I'm seeing from him at the moment. And by the way, when you see those interviews, it's not just, oh, look, he's showing the real AJ now. We know the real AJ, but the pressure on him as a flag bearer for the sport over the years, it's almost like he has to behave in a certain way, because the kids love him, the nans love him, the granddads love him. He's the flag bearer of British boxing. But I think now the spite's there to say, no, right, I can go out and I like that. And I think fans like it as well. The response has been really positive, and it's not him putting on a front, that's him being him. Sometimes the humble guy that you see is a humble individual, but someone that probably feels like that's how he's got to behave in the position that he's in. So yeah, I guess you're seeing the raw AJ or the real AJ or whatever you want to say, but we need to see that AJ that goes in and knocks people's heads off, and you're going to see that when these two meet again.
How long does he have to actually get that in place first, so that he can fully prepare for the rematch?
Well, I think he'll probably have another trip out to the States in November, and I think he'll have to make a decision on how he wants that camp to look and where that is to take place. I think it was a really good experience for him to just meet these people, talk, look at different setups, and just have a think about how that setup should look to him. And I guess he'll be making his decisions over the coming month or so. So it's in gear to start camp well ahead of time. Alex Krasuk is away on holiday. I said we'll meet up as soon as he gets back, and we'll plan the date and the venue for that rematch. And then the real camp will begin. I expect the rematch to March or April, something like that. So certainly training will start at the turn of the year, but he'll be training well before that, and he's already training now because he can't stop thinking about beating Alexander Usyk.
Eddie also said he had some deep talks with his team after that fight, just trying to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page moving forward. Never really went into that too much. Can you enlighten us what you spoke about?
Not really. I mean, just talking about what went wrong, I guess. And sometimes not being in the camp, you don't know what happened. Sometimes you might just turn up for a couple of sparring sessions, everything's fine and dandy. I remember that, same with the Ruiz fight, and everything looked great on fight week. Then you find out, that it wasn't a great camp, or sparring wasn't great, or didn't get the sparring partners you want, or loads of different things. So I think he's just talking to everybody in that training team and just saying, why didn't we get it right? I want to know why we didn't get it right. As I said, he has to take some of that responsibility as well, which he does, but he wants to improve and he wants to make sure he wins a rematch.
The final thing on that interview, you had some choice words for your old mate Bob Arum. Yeah. Just get your thoughts on it.
I mean, Bob's said loads of stuff about AJ over the years, and AJ's never really taken any notice, but obviously he chose to respond. Bob can be quite condescending sometimes, and part of that is because he has incredible knowledge of boxing, but Bob will say that. Bob was the same guy that said that he shouldn't take the Andi Ruiz rematch, probably. You can't win Andy. If you don't take the rematch, you're a coward, right? And if you do take the rematch and you lose, you should never have taken that rematch. When he got stopped by Andy Ruiz, everyone said, whatever you do, do not take that rematch. You've just been stopped. You need to rebuild, get your confidence back, come back. Instead, he rematched him and won every round. Now, off the back of this defeat, some people say, no, you shouldn't do this, you should do that. He said, well, why fight anyone else? He just wants to win his world heavyweight titles back. You can't walk away from the opportunity to fight Alexander Usyk again. He has no interest in any other fight other than Alexander Usyk. And, you know, that was his opinion of Bob Arum.
Just two more from me, one which I forgot to ask earlier. When do you expect for WBC to order Fury Whyte?
Well, it's kind of been ordered already on their website and in different documents, but it's their convention coming up in a couple of weeks. So I guess the official order will come then.
And then, Devin Haney, are you confident the Jojo Diaz fight will go ahead?
We're getting there. I mean,
what's the current sticking point? Because I'm seeing them going back and forwards over Twitter.
Just really making sure that Golden Boy are happy with the fight. I think the terms and the purses are pretty much agreed with both fighters now. We're just tying up the loose ends with Golden Boy. I can't tell you it's definitely going to get done, but I'm confident and hopeful. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't. And again, like, you know, we've got this run coming up that we're incredibly proud of. And when you talk about value for the Zone subscribers, you know, of course you've got the World Championship doubleheader, Kiko against Kid Galahad, Terry Harper returning, Chris Billum-Smith for the European title. Then you go to the East Coast of America for the 4 World Championship fight card, Demetrius Andrade against Quigley, Julio Cesar Martinez against Arroyo, Akhmad Liev against Rios, Reese against Kamara, which is the other half of the Undisputed. Then you go to the Madison Square Garden for the small card with Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos live on the Zone. Hopefully the week after that is Devin Haney against Jojo Diaz. Then you've got 2 massive cards in the UK to end the year. So if we can just nail Jojo Diaz against Devin Haney, this is an unbelievable finish to the year, and fingers crossed we can get that done in the next 48 hours.
Are you making provisions in case Jojo can't fight Devin?
We are, but this is the one we want, you know, and it would be bad news for everybody if we don't get this over the line. But that's happened before. We'll do everything we can to make the fight. We are close, but no cigar just yet, but hopefully we can get it made.
Eddie, it's Wednesday, it's fight week, take it away.
I want to say that, I can't remember the last one we did.
I feel like they're all the same now.
They probably are the same, but I just feel that, you know, in this situation, that when we talk about this card, sometimes you go on a great run of Warrington against Lara, AJ against Usyk, Smith against Fowler, everything's sold out, and then you get to a stage where you think, we've just got to keep going. You know, you get the phone call to say Dillian needs to pull out of the fight, and you're faced with a problem. And the problem is, you either walk away. It is so easy at that point just to say, let's, you know, call the show off, we'll move forward. Or you don't let anyone down. You man up, you face your obligations head on, and you crack on. You know, you've got people you don't want to let down. You've got schedules to put in place. But you also realise that along the way you're going to get criticism, and you're going to get people that are going to be trying to knock you down, give you a bit of stick along the way. You have to be prepared for everything that comes at you. And in life, that comes at you every single day. So this week has been a bit miserable. But we look forward to a great show this weekend, and we bounce back. And that's what you always have to do, keep bouncing back. And on that note, you are right, they all are quite similar. But if you haven't read my book yet, Relentless, that is also available. And a lot of it is based on that. So.
Eddie, as always, pleasure. Thank you.
And see you, mate.
Cheers, Eddie.